There is a quiet fear rising in the minds of good people. It's not the fear of failure, not even the fear of change. It's deeper than that. It's the fear of becoming unnecessary, of being replaced, not just in work, but in worth, of waking up one day to find that the world no longer needs what you carry, that your voice, your skill, your spark has been replicated by something faster, smarter, tireless, and soulless. And while others race to adapt, pivot, optimize, you've felt something ancient ache beneath it all. Not jealousy, not laziness, just this silent question. What happens when the world no longer honors the human soul? Maybe you felt it. A client chooses convenience over connection. A project is automated, and something sacred vanishes. You scroll past synthetic art, artificial voices, lifeless words, and you wonder, if machines can do all this, what am I even here for? You're not alone. There's grief in this moment of history, and no one's naming it. The grief of losing meaning, the erosion of craft, the sorrow of speed replacing soul, and buried beneath that grief is anger. Not the kind that yells, the kind that watches quietly as centuries of human creation are digitized, commodified, and sold back to us. But deeper still, deeper than the grief, deeper than the fear, is something else. Something unshakable, a knowing, a memory, a presence that no AI will ever touch. And it sounds like this: the machine can mimic the form, but it can't carry the flame. It can organize information. It can simulate emotion. It can predict, synthesize, and outperform in speed, but it cannot choose to believe. It cannot wrestle with doubt and still act. It cannot hold a vision in the dark and move toward it with no proof. It cannot weep with longing, then rise again with purpose, because those things are human and sacred and irreplaceable. This is what Napoleon Hill knew, long before silicon chips and neural networks, that all wealth, all greatness, all true innovation begins not with data, but with desire, with a vision that cannot be seen by any lens but the soul, with a faith no system can simulate, with a will no technology can automate, because true creation doesn't start with knowing, it starts with believing, and that is the one power no machine will ever own. So before we talk strategy, before we decide how to keep up, we must remember what AI can never become. It can be intelligent, but not intentional. It can be trained, but not transformed. It can process inputs, but it can't pray. It can produce, but it cannot feel truth and act on it anyway. And that's where your power still lives. Not in competing with the machine, but in carrying what it can never hold: a soul, a decision, a sacred reason why. You are not falling behind. You are standing at the edge of the greatest opportunity in a generation to remember what makes you uncopyable, not your speed, not your efficiency, not your ability to keep up, but your alignment, your vision, your humanity. So don't race the machine, return to the flame, because what the world needs now, more than ever, is a human being who remembers their own worth. You weren't supposed to feel this disposable. You weren't supposed to wake up and wonder if your value expired overnight, if your work still matters, if your presence still counts. But here you are, watching machines write code, generate art, answer questions, close deals, and the whispers begin. Maybe you're not needed anymore. Maybe your edge is gone. Maybe it's only a matter of time. This is the quiet dread no one wants to admit, not out loud, but you've felt it, that sinking sensation in your chest, when you realize that the thing you worked years to master can now be done in seconds by something that never eats, never sleeps, never doubts itself, and no one's asking how that feels. They just keep cheering it on, celebrating speed over soul, effortlessness over essence, and you're left standing in a room where the noise of innovation has drowned out the human heartbeat. This is more than technological advancement. This is spiritual disorientation, because whether you're an artist or an analyst, a healer or a strategist, your work was never just output. It was intimacy. It was offering. It was part of your identity. And now, Now you're told to be excited that the very thing you built your life around is being outsourced to a system with no soul. So yes, there's grief, but most won't call it that. They'll call it resistance to change. They'll call it fear of the future. They'll tell you to adapt or be left behind. But underneath all that jargon, here's what you're really feeling. I was taught to honor mastery, to earn trust, to become excellent. Now I feel like I'm being outpaced by something that doesn't even care. And that hurts. It's not ego. It's ache, it's loss, the kind that makes you question whether any of it ever really mattered. And when that pain sets in, it's easy to shrink, to silence your deeper voice, to rush, to conform, to compete with something that isn't even alive, to trade soul for speed, to numb your own intuition, to believe the lie. If I can't do it faster than the machine, I must not be worth much. But this is the first falsehood we must burn. You were never meant to move like a machine. You were meant to move like a mountain, slow, deliberate, unmistakably human. The world may admire velocity, but it's only transformed by presence, and presence can't be programmed. You see, machines move fast, but only in straight lines. They don't wander, they don't question. They don't pause to wonder why a thing matters, they just execute. But you carry something machines cannot calculate. You carry tension, you carry memory, you carry longing. You don't just solve problems, you feel them. You carry their weight in your chest until the solution is born, not from data, but from depth. That's what real work is. That's what sacred work has always been. Not efficient, but alive. And aliveness cannot be cloned. There's a reason you get goosebumps when a line of poetry pierces through. There's a reason your breath catches when someone says exactly what your heart never had words for. It's not because the content was perfect. It's because it was carried by a human soul who meant it. That's what the machine will never give us, and that's what you must never trade. But here's the deeper danger. When you're surrounded by artificial brilliance, it's easy to start doubting your natural intelligence, to second-guess your rhythm, to speed up your soul just to stay visible. But in doing that, you abandon the very thing that made your work valuable in the first place. Your way of seeing, your way of feeling, your way of choosing. And that is the second lie of obsolescence. That to remain relevant, you must become less human, faster, sharper, constantly available, emotionally numb, a walking algorithm with a brand and a goal. But you weren't born for that. You weren't born to echo. You were born to embody, and embodiment requires slowness. It requires space, it requires truth, even when it's inconvenient. There's something sacred that happens when a human being creates in alignment with purpose. You felt it. When your words flow from stillness and strike clean, when your decisions rise from clarity instead of panic, when your presence shifts the room without trying. It doesn't look like speed. It doesn't sound like applause, but it's undeniable. That is what AI will never replicate. Because it's not code, it's consciousness, and consciousness cannot be copied. It must be lived, felt, chosen, again and again. And here's what you must hold sacred now. Your humanity is not a liability. It's your last unfair advantage. It's not what you outsmart that will define you. It's what you outfeel, outlove, outlast. Machines don't endure. They don't become. They don't carry legacy, they carry output. But you carry story, you carry struggle. You carry the long arc of becoming, and the wisdom that comes from staying awake through it all. No system will ever replace that, no matter how fast it gets. So breathe, come back to yourself. You are not a dinosaur in a digital world. You are a mirror of the divine, walking among machines. And your value doesn't come from your speed. It comes from your spirit. So don't rush to catch up. Return to what is real. Return to what is slow, sacred, and alive in you. Because that's where the flame is. Napoleon Hill never imagined artificial intelligence. There were no circuits in his world, no digital assistants, no synthetic voices simulating wisdom. And yet, what he taught then feels more urgent now than ever, because Hill wasn't just teaching people how to become rich. He was revealing how humans create from the invisible world. He wrote of faith, of desire, of decision, of persistence. But buried beneath every chapter, every principle, was a deeper truth. You are more than a thinker. You are a transmitter of intention, and that's what no machine will ever be. A machine can receive data, it can recognize patterns, it can optimize outcomes, but it cannot believe. It cannot hold a dream in the dark. It cannot generate desire from nothing. It cannot suffer and still choose forward. But you can, and Hill knew. That is the source of all true wealth, not intellect alone. Not efficiency, but the emotionalized idea backed by faith and moved by will. That word again, will, not the kind that grits its teeth and powers through, but the deeper kind, the sacred kind, the unprovable, unshakable decision to continue. When there is no visible reason to. Machines don't have will, they run programs. They execute code. They can produce, but they cannot persist with purpose. You can, and this is the human element Hill placed at the center of his entire philosophy. It wasn't the strategy that mattered, it was the source of the strategy. The emotional state of the person choosing it. Hill's most misunderstood principle was not think and grow rich. It was the word that came before that, desire. He didn't say plan and grow rich. He didn't say calculate and grow rich. He said think, but by that he meant feel it, know it, decide it, move as if it already lives inside you. That is not something a machine can imitate, because it has no inner world, but you do. And it is from that inner world that all your greatest work will rise. Let's be clear, a machine can replicate the result of your thought, but it cannot touch the root. It can mimic the product, but it cannot carry the process that birthed it, because your process wasn't mechanical, it was human, it was non-linear, messy, full of emotion, resistance, breakthrough. Maybe you wrote that chapter after a heartbreak. Maybe you built that offer with tears still drying on your face. Maybe you stood in the dark, broke and alone, and still said, I will do this. I don't care how. I will not back down. That moment, the one. No one saw it was your wealth, not the launch, not the revenue. That you the fire of self-declared purpose in the middle of uncertainty. That is the seed Hill honored, and that seed has never lived in machines. We are in an age now where information is free, but Hill never taught information. He taught initiation. He knew that a man or woman with clarity, belief, and decision was more powerful than a million tools, because those tools mean nothing without a decider behind them, and the stronger the decider, the simpler the tools can be. AI may win at computation, but it cannot choose purpose. It cannot wake up after failure and say, again. It cannot love. It cannot hope. It cannot create from faith because it has no soul to guide it. That's why Hill didn't start his book with logic. He started with burning desire. Why? Because desire is sacred energy. It is spiritual voltage. It is the fire that births worlds from empty spaces. Machines run on input, but you run on vision. And here's the truth the world forgets. The most powerful creations in history were born before the world was ready. They were born in the mind of someone who was told to give up, who had no evidence, no guarantees. Just a stubborn flame, that's you. And AI will never match that flame because it was never meant to. It wasn't designed to feel what you feel. It wasn't built to carry belief. That's your job. That's the human element. Hill built an empire upon. So what now? Now you stop underestimating the invisible. You stop thinking the algorithm is your competition, when in truth it has no compass. You stop outsourcing your worth to machines that cannot dream, and you start returning to the forces no one can automate. Your faith, your inner voice, your decision, your emotional clarity. Because these are not soft traits, they are not obsolete. They are the very engine of reality, and they are the only thing that will ever make your work matter. The future isn't about who can prompt the machine better. The future belongs to those who remember. The machine cannot initiate. The machine cannot believe. The machine cannot hold a vision no one else sees, and move anyway. There is a part of you that has never gone. Dim, not when you failed, not when you froze, Not even when the world rushed ahead without you. It flickered in doubt. It trembled in grief. But it never left. That spark, and the one you were born with, is the piece of you that no machine will ever know. It is your inner flame, your essence, your divine authority, the origin of your clarity, your boldness, your human voice. And while the world races toward artificial brilliance, you are being called back to something far more rare, your irreplaceable presence. This chapter is not for thinking, it's for remembering, not intellectually, but viscerally, in your chest, inside your breath, in your journal. Because in the noise of innovation, you need a ritual that anchors you in what cannot be digitized, your rhythm, your reverence, your reality. So let's return to the sacred. Let's light the fire again, not to burn out, but to burn true. Ritual 1. The seat of stillness every morning. Before the noise, before the headlines, before the scrolling, you sit, no goal, no input, just awareness. You close your eyes, you breathe, and you whisper to yourself, I am not a machine, I do not rush, I listen. Let the silence settle around you, let your pulse return to its natural rhythm. Let your awareness descend from your head to your chest, and then gently ask, what is real in me today? Wait, not for logic, but for knowing. A sentence may arise, a word, or just a feeling. Whatever comes, write it. Just one line, let it be the thread you follow through the day. Ritual 2. The fire statement. Every human has a truth they've been afraid to say, but are burning to live by. It's not a slogan, it's not a brand, it's your fire statement. Something like, I move at the speed of clarity, not pressure. I trust the flame more than the formula. I create from essence, not urgency. My value is not measurable by output. What is yours? Write it on a note card. Place it by your workspace. Read it before you respond, write, speak, or decide. This is how you guard your flame. Ritual 3. The human signature. Before you share any work with the world, stop. Place your hand on your heart and ask, is this coming from pressure or presence? If it's pressure, pause. If it's presence, proceed. Then write 3 words that describe the energy behind the work you're about to release. For example, grounded, clear, alive, still, true, personal. Aligned, bold, simple. This is your human signature. No machine can embed that into your work, only you can, by choosing it. These aren't productivity hacks. They are sacred interruptions. Interruptions to the momentum of machine culture. Interruptions to the lie that speed equals value. Interruptions to the trance of irrelevance. Because the more often you pause to return to your spark, the less likely you are to abandon it when the world shouts for noise. You do not need to become superhuman to stay relevant. You need to become deeply, unmistakably human again, not generic, not performative. You unedited, unduplicated, uncoded, and that begins not with strategy but with stillness. It begins by remembering that your very ability to feel truth and act on it is your power. Your insight is not artificial. Your inner knowing is not a model. Your intuition cannot be scraped or stolen, because it's not data, it's divine. So no matter what rises around you, come back to your spark. Let the others race to prompt perfection. Let the world automate itself into silence. You carry the fire. There's a lie buried deep beneath the race for relevance. It's not just that machines are getting better. It's that you must become more like them to survive, that you must be faster, smarter, always available, always on. It's subtle, but it's everywhere. In the pressure to match the algorithm, in the guilt for needing rest, in the shame for not producing like a tool that never stops. And the most dangerous part? You start to believe it, not just intellectually, but identity deep. Maybe I'm not enough anymore. Maybe I need to become more optimized. Maybe I'm falling behind. But none of that is true, because here's what no system will ever be, a source. And here's what you've forgotten in all this noise. You are the source, not a copy, not an input, not a prompt, a source. AI is built to receive commands, but you were born to issue them. AI needs data to function. You need only conviction. AI can process what is, but only you can envision what is not. Yet, AI is a system, but you are a seed, and a seed does not ask permission to become. It carries the code of what it's here to do, silently, patiently, unshakably, until it breaks open and grows. You do not serve the system. You do not exist to outproduce or outperform. You are not a brand. You are not a niche. You are not a package. You are a presence. You carry substance. You transmit energy. You shift atmosphere. That can't be engineered. It must be embodied. And embodiment is not about performance. It's about memory. It's about remembering who you were before the system trained you to doubt it. So here's the truth we reclaim now. You are not here to match the machine. You are here to move from your knowing. The system may have its rule, but you have reign. And reign begins with recognition, that your attention is sacred, that your rhythm is holy, that your voice is not noise, it is direction. The more you identify as a system, the more you chase relevance, the more you return to source, and the more you become undeniable. Let's speak plainly. You've spent years building tools, tweaking tactics, following best practices. You've refined your craft. You've learned how to communicate, create, deliver, and serve. But somewhere along the way, you started confusing skill with self. You started believing that your value depended on how well you performed, how perfectly you kept up. And in that confusion, you forgot what Napoleon Hill made foundational, that all transformation begins with the mind ruled by will, not external willpower. Not grinding, but the will that comes from knowing I am not here to react, I am here to create. AI cannot will, it cannot want, it cannot yearn, it cannot choose belief over fear. It can simulate a result, but it cannot originate a dream. Only humans can do that. Only you. And when you reclaim that identity, not as a task manager, not as a content producer, not as a machine whisperer, but as the living origin of your own world, everything changes. Your clarity sharpens. Your voice deepens. Your choices align. You stop looking at what the system is doing and start asking what your soul is asking for. And maybe that's why the anxiety has been so loud lately, because part of you knows you were never meant to serve the machine. You were meant to awaken the world the machine cannot touch. You were meant to become something no prompt can predict, no tool can replace, no trend can override. You were meant to become a living signal, not of speed, but of stillness, not of perfection, but of presence, not of sameness, but of soul, and soul, when remembered, moves everything around it. So here's your commandment now. Stop seeing yourself as one small piece in a massive system. Start seeing yourself as the source that systems respond to. Your attention is not raw material. Your thoughts are not content. Your imagination is not for profit. They are holy. And when you treat them as such, the world, yes, even the digital world, bends, because systems don't lead reality. Souls do. There is a reason your mind doesn't feel at peace in a world built for machines. It was never designed to process noise. It was never meant to chase relevance or compete with code. Your mind wasn't built to scroll, or to optimize, or to obey metrics that have no soul behind them. Your mind was built to hold vision, to recognize truth, to initiate the unseen. Your mind was meant for meaning, and the moment you remember that, your entire direction changes, not because you pivot, but because you finally align. Let's speak without hesitation now, because you don't need more reassurance. You need recognition of what's been alive in you all along. You've never been lacking purpose. You've just been overwhelmed by signals that had nothing to do with it. You've been drowning in prompts when what you needed was presence. You've been building offers when what you craved was order. You've been reacting instead of responding from your core. That stops here, because what makes you irreplaceable is not how much you know. It's how clearly you remember why you're here. So here's the deeper truth. One final time, AI will grow. It will become faster, smarter, more capable, but it will never wake up and ask, what was I born to do? Only humans ask that. Only humans need meaning, and that need, that sacred ache for alignment, is not weakness. It is compass. It is instruction. It is your call back to a way of living that doesn't begin with strategy, but with soul. You've spent long enough studying systems. Now study your own signal, that subtle knowing, that quiet pull, that inner compass you keep muting every time you compare your pace to a machine's. Your mind isn't broken. It's bored of playing small, it's starved of meaning. It's ready to remember why it was given to you in the first place. Not to analyze, but to aim. Your mind is not a processor. It is a vessel, a sacred space where vision becomes voice and voice becomes action. So begin here, not with a plan, not with content, but with clarity. Ask yourself, what am I here to say that no machine can say for me? What am I here to build, not because it's trending, but because it's true? What energy do I bring that cannot be coded or copied? And write it, even if it's one line, even if it feels incomplete, even if it's nothing like what you see online, because that is where the path begins. You don't need to escape the digital world. You just need to stop bowing to it. Let the tools serve your vision, not replace it. Let the algorithms organize your delivery, not define your direction. Let the systems support your rhythm, not overrule your wisdom. The machine is a map, but your soul is the compass. Here's what no one tells you when they talk about AI changing everything. It's not replacing you. It's revealing you. It's showing you where you've outsourced your power, where you've delayed your purpose, where you've buried your voice under the weight of optimization. It's inviting you right now to rise, not as a brand, not as a product, as a presence, as someone who doesn't need to be louder and just clearer, as someone who doesn't need to be perfect, just honest, as someone who doesn't need to predict the future because they're too busy creating. So what do you build now? The same thing you were born to build, but this time from alignment, not from fear, not from reaction, from that calm, commanding, exact part of you that knows, I was made for more than performance. I was made for purpose. And if you follow that knowing, even one step today, everything will begin to reorganize, because systems respond to strategy, but life responds to alignment. You don't need the machine to recognize your value. You need to own it. Then use the machine as a tool, not as a mirror, not as a measure, not as a master, just a servant to what is already true in you, because you're not here to win at automation. You're here to walk in meaning, to lead from soul, to decide with faith, to think with fire. And the moment you do, nothing artificial will ever outshine what's real in you. You've walked through a world of wires. You've stood in the shadows of systems. You've heard the algorithms speak and felt the silence inside yourself grow louder in response. But now something is different. Not in the world, in you. Because now you remember, the machine can replicate the form, but not the flame. It can calculate outcomes. It can organize knowledge. It can outperform humans in speed, scale, and storage. But it cannot suffer and still choose. It cannot believe in what it cannot see. It cannot move forward with no guarantee but faith. That power, the will to act from alignment, even in the dark, lives only in you. You've been afraid of being replaced. But now you see, you were never in competition. Because what makes you powerful cannot be coded. Your stillness, your presence, your sacred decision to walk with meaning, not momentum. No system can simulate that. No circuit can carry that. No server can replicate that spark that wakes in your chest when your purpose is clear. And now it is clear. You are not obsolete. You are original, unrepeatable, undeniably human. Not because you try harder, but because you finally remembered. You still are the source, not the system. You are the compass, not the code. You are the one the flame chose to carry it forward. And now you will. Not with noise, but with knowing. Not with urgency, but with unshakable calm. Not with performance, but with presence. So step forward. Same work, same platform, same tools, but you, no longer the same. Because now you know where your worth lives. Now you move from meaning. Now you create from identity, not insecurity. You'll still use the machine, but you'll never again serve it, because you're no longer trying to win. A race you were never meant to run. You're building something else entirely. A life, a rhythm, a body of work that cannot be copied, because it came from a place no machine will ever access. You don't need to chase relevance. You are the relevance. You don't need to fear the future. You carry the future. In your clarity, your conviction, your daily decision to stay aligned with the flame. Because that flame, it can't be optimized, it can't be scheduled, it can't be downloaded, it can only be lived. And now, finally, you will.